Ladies and gentlemen, it's Macabre Derek once again with another RPG rant. Today's topic: scrapping characters. Now, why is it that this ended up coming up? Well, let me tell you. Recently, the third season of, well, VTMYTE, Vampire the Masquerade YouTube experiment, ended up going into third season. Now, a lot of the background stuff is being worked up, and when the game officially opens its doors to the flood of new characters, and I hope to see you there, it's going to be a case of a background that wasn't just set, described by the NPCs, but one that some of the player characters from season 2 have helped shape. Okay, this is kind of a case of there's prologues going on, and these are being played out in order to build the story and start to build some of those connections beforehand, because a lot of things will end up changing. The political landscape amongst the neonates of New Sarum is going to shift. And up until probably 5 days ago, my character was amongst them. Now, Sabra, a Toreador, political and focused, ended up not working out. And while everybody might have a myriad of reasons why their characters might not work out, I take this particularly hard because I have not had to drop a character in 17 years of play. That's right, in 17 years, I have never retired a character. I have played them till death, till the game burned out, or till the game concluded. I'd never stopped playing characters. And this, I took a little bit of pride in this, was the fact that I ended up building characters that are well developed enough that they can end up carrying through a game. But this last character, I lost sight of something. Suffice it to say, the character was not doing right by me, and because of that, I decided to let her go. That's fine. It happens. The thing, though, is that I'm one of those characters, should I say players, that takes these kinds of things a little bit more personally. I'm a little bit too serious sometimes, and I take my games a little bit too far on the occasion, mostly because I love that immersion, because I love to get people immersed. I love to end up making them drawn in to that moment. And that's great. That's great to end up running into. But it comes with a flip side. And that flip side is because we put so much time into these characters, because we put so much thought into them, and we want to be able to end up portraying them as best we can. When they don't work out, it becomes a failing. All right. So I'm going to start off with unreasonable, and we're going to move on to very reasonable. Okay. And I'll make a point of trying to outline them, because I've never made a secret that I end up having a lot of history when it comes down to these mental hiccups, shall we say, that I need to be quite aware of. Now, I know that there's a few people on my channel who also end up having these particular issues, and I want this channel to be able to help them out if they need it. So, very first thing, try not, and I say try is a really piss poor word. Try implies that I want you to try and pick up this pen. That's picking up. Oh, I almost had it. Nope. That's trying. All right. So I hate that word. What I want you to do, though, is try not to end up making it a case of I failed. All right. You internalize that, and it starts to self-destruct everything. And I know this because right now I'm going through this. It's a lot of doubt that creeps in. It does not add to your creative process. In fact, it hinders it, because now all of a sudden you're trying to build based on avoiding things as opposed to what you're trying to go for. What are you trying to go for with these characters? And if you're building them on sheer avoidance, you really don't do much of anything. And those don't make for compelling characters. Compelling characters are doers. They're the ones who have the goal and go forward. Remember, we ended up discussing this in my number one problem with most player characters. It's the biggest problem that is rarely addressed, and it really needs to be addressed. Well, pardon me. This is something that I think a lot of people need to end up taking the time to, if they ended up, or let me rephrase this. A lot of people end up making that mistake. When scrapping a character, my number one mistake is that I tend to take it personally. I associate that character that has fell flat on their face and, just didn't work out as a failure, to the point where for almost a straight 3 days, I was convinced I will never be able to do Toreador. Watch my story time with Cedric. That's definitely not the case. And yet, I was starting to question my ability to play pretty much any character going. That I couldn't build another compelling character because of what I did. That's unreasonable. That's unreasonable. I have a proven history of playing this. And if you have a few characters under your belt and some of them have come out fucking aces, that they've been not only memorable, but they ended up defining maybe a campaign, that they were a huge part of the events to go in your campaign, the ones that you've played in, you've impacted a lot of people by playing this character and shaping their experience. This is a very unfair judgment to yourself. So don't ever end up changing it to that. The second thing is that this doubt, this flushing of a character, especially if you were really wanting to play this kind of character and you just found out it wasn't working, will often end up completely killing your enthusiasm for a game. It sucks when that happens. It really does. I consider myself a very enthusiastic player. I'm a very animated player. I want to be able to bring something to the table that most people don't end up seeing. But the problem is when I end up doing that, and when I try and pull you in and get you in that mindset and be able to have you envision this character I'm portraying, right? That energy just goes away when a character falls flat on its face. And you try and move on to the next one. You want to portray those kinds of characters, but it just doesn't seem possible anymore. No matter what you end up doing to end up making things go right, you feel like you can't. You feel like you're trapped. Probably the best thing I would end up suggesting for that, if you're feeling trapped, is just talk with people. Now, you're going to run into some people who are just going to be very dismissive. That's just going to be the case. However, at that point, what you need to do is find the people who give you the energy to keep going on, as opposed to the people who don't give you any energy to work off of at all. That becomes rather difficult at times. But what was it? If you find 3 true friends in your lifetime, you can consider yourself extremely lucky. Well, let's consider then a. Oh, I just realized how bad this camera's going. Fix in mid-screen. Go figure. Yeah. Hey, there we go. Now I don't look like a blood-stained sycophant. Yeah, because we do it live. The third thing I want to end up bringing up too is that the hardest part is comparing. Never compare one character to another, right? As soon as you're comparing the characters, you're stifling the new character. You're making it so that it can't grow into its own thing. It sucks because when you end up doing this, you've reached a point where it's aversion again. You're not going towards a goal, right? You're going away from a goal. You know, I know that sounds weird, but that's effectively what it is. Here's the goal. I do not want to be this. I need to get as far away from it as possible. That can end up learning or leaning into some very character destructive methods of thinking. Focus on what you want to do. Make sure that the character is fun for you to play. Now, you don't know this until you hit the ground running. Sometimes, now I'll openly admit that you may not have given the character enough time. You may not have found their voice yet. Completely possible. I sometimes think of that's the case with the character I had, and if it wasn't for the fact that mentally I have associated that character with so much venom and vitriol that they became just toxic to play, because I became so self-judged, or so much judgment pointed towards myself while I'm portraying that character, that it became disturbing, suffice it to say. And that's one of the things is when I end up playing it, I typically end up getting very much into the headspace of the characters. It's a bit of it's the unhealthy side of method acting, I guess is the best way to describe it. And I kind of touch upon that. But that's what I find fun, is when you are immersed in that particular role and you just take it upon yourself to build up these psychologies and be somebody else for half an hour, an 8-hour play session, who knows, whatever your cup of tea is. Another thing is work with your ST, your GM, what have you. Do not be in the dark. Do not end up holding back. They're going to ask some questions or make some statements that are going to make you feel like shit about the character. It's going to happen. That's not their intent. Definitely not. No ST do I ever know wants you to feel like shit for what you're bringing in. They want you at the table, otherwise you would have never been invited to the dance in the first place. But if they're asking questions and you're feeling that in your gut, like just right there, then you're going to need to end up taking a moment and end up doing a bit of a gut check for yourself. Is this the type of character you're playing? Does it work? Why doesn't it work? And understand that they want to have this character in, in the game, but not in its current incarnation. There are angles that you need to be aware of, and these angles will be brought up in game. And if they weren't, it wouldn't be a big point of contention. Your ST probably doesn't give a rat's ass on who your uncle's brother twice removed sister's nephew was. They don't really give a rat's ass about that, but what they do give a rat's ass about is these core things that bring the character to the game. Best example I can end thinking right out of the gate is Vampire the Masquerade. Why was your character embraced? Now, if you're going to play something a little bit oddball, you still need to come up with that reason. Sad truth is that in a point where if you get turned into a vampire, if that other vampire did not get permission from the prince, the big head honcho of the city, he's dead, you're dead. Why would he take that risk? And to get the prince's okay to do so is a lot of things that need to be done, a lot of favors and money and power being pushed, a lot of politics being leveraged. So getting that once in a century opportunity, if that, needs to be a huge thing. So your character has to be worth it. Why are they worth it? It's a very good question. I have run into this with the character I want to end up bringing to the game. And I've hit dead stop because I realized that I'm struggling to justify it. However, that's a part of the building characters. And that's another video altogether. But what this process is doing is helping you move on. All right? The character you were initially playing is scrapped, in the bin, tossed. Okay? But don't throw out the whole idea. Here's why. Maybe, just maybe, this character is just not a good fit for this game. Or maybe you had an idea for this character and it wasn't refined enough. So when you did come back to it, and I would suggest come back to them after a while, you'll be able to end up seeing where did this go wrong and develop it into something that is worth playing. It becomes difficult at times, most definitely, but you end up having these moments where you can't let this go. Okay? I really want to play Toreador. I want to end up learning this clan. It's the one clan that has given me problems time and time again when it came down to STing. So as a player, sorry, chair. As a character, I want them to blossom, to become more, right? To become a good Toreador character. And unfortunately, right now, I still have that association of a very poor character associated with this clan. Now that clan has become even more poisonous to me. If I were to rank, well, let me put it to you this way. I was almost in agreement with a lot of the lists that Andrew Wood ended up putting up when he talked about his list of the 13 clans, least favorite to favorite. And while I heavily disagree with him when it comes down to Clan Ventru, I end up rating them as a 2 or a 3, not 12 out of the 13th clans. 13th Assamite, I agree full heavily on that. This became so fucking poisonous that right now, Toreador has just ended up going underneath Assamite. Assamite has ended up jumping up to 12th because of this experience. That's how bad it is. And yet I still want to play them. I want to play them because I don't want Toreador to be anywhere associated with Assamite. It's gotten that bad. But let me get off that tangent and bring it back. The other thing you need to end up considering when throwing out, the baby with the bathwater. Remember the thing that made you want to play this character. And ask yourself, can you do it elsewhere? Can you do it in a different character? Now, maybe not the same character or same game, or maybe it'll take a little while. Maybe play something completely different. Who knows? But so long as you are getting involved with it. Now, I personally would love to end up taking the time to develop something a lot more precise, but I'm still going through this process personally. Talk with your STs. Don't take it personal. Don't treat yourself badly because a character didn't work out. It was an idea. Ideas can be refined, ideas can be changed, ideas can be developed. And that can happen. You can fall flat on your face. Pick yourself up, do it again. There's so much that you could develop as far as characters. If you've ever created your own setting, you've had to come up with at least 20 to 30 different characters right off the top of your head. You probably end up taking another 20 or 30 that you ended up spending months preparing and developing personalities and traits and voices for. The hardest part when playing as a player is that you feel like you can only play one of them and you want to play your best. And yet, those characters we've left behind, those who we've put relegated back to the bin, they still have a voice. Last piece of advice I would say is learn from them. Don't obsess. Just when the dust is settled, think back to why the character didn't work. It could be something involved in their story. It could be something involved with their personality type. It could be that you struggle to play a specific race or class or something like that. Don't scrap the idea, not in its entirety. Just realize that you need to end up thinking about it in another light. You may need to go back to it at another point in time. There's no shame in it. But the most important thing you can do is move on. It's tough when you get a little obsessive about a concept, but remember, we all play this for fun. If you're not having fun through the whole thing, don't waste your time. It's too valuable. If you found this at all helpful, feel free to press the like button. If you want to end up seeing more of my ranting and ravings and maybe getting a little sentimental, feel free to press that subscribe button and check out the channel. Might be a video or two that you might appreciate. Well, until next time.